Welcome to the Crew Up North podcast. My name is Jennifer. Today on the show, I'm interviewing a man who has spent his entire adult career working in film and television and has been an integral part to the growth of the Northern Ontario film industry, Justin Kelly.
I would say that one of the things I like to foster the most is a collaborative environment, and best idea wins.
Justin is a producer and a production manager who has over 100 shows under his belt.
Like, she's like, I want to do this. I'm like, we can't do that. Like, physics or money or what.
He's worked on everything from the Emmy-nominated TV series What We Do in the Shadows and indie film Antibirth, which premiered at Sundance.
We have a feature coming up in the first quarter of next year that we're really excited about.
Oh, yes. Justin is sharing the reason he is so passionate about developing the labor pool in this region and why he has continued to choose the North for over 20 years.
To help Northern Ontario grow, we have to grow the labor force. Like, that's key to everything.
All of that and more right here on the Crew Up North.
I hope you don't get used to this, leaving you so little to believe in.
Justin,
Yes.
thank you so much for being here.
Truly my pleasure.
I know you're super busy, so I really do appreciate you taking the time to be here.
I literally have today off, which is great.
Wow.
And
Good
This is
thing I
cutting
brought you
into-
food.
it's cutting into some football time, but that's about it.
Okay, fair, yeah. Well, I did get us a little something, a little lunch. I went to Good To Go, which is a fabulous place in town.
Yep. I'm a big fan of it. It's where I eat the most when I'm in North Bay.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know that they pride themselves on having a lot of healthy options for
Yeah.
people. It's not uncommon that I'm on set and I see actors walking around with food from Good To Go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even my most recent production.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, everybody, like the whole cast and the producers that were in town from LA, they were like, everybody was rocking a smoothie.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, you have their grilled cheese and homemade tomato soup. I have their Italian roasted veggie focaccia panini.
Oh.
Basically, I picked it because I like saying focaccia.
It's a good word.
Yeah. And we have some of their muffin bites. I got the variety. They have,
That's great.
yeah, they do I think they do different kinds. So we've got like a raspberry, banana chocolate chip, and pumpkin spice, I think is what we have going on.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of their food.
Nice.
And, I eat there a lot, so
Cool.
I'm excited.
So if anyone in North Bay, if you haven't checked it out, or if you're coming to visit, you should go try something there.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it's healthy.
I'm going to take a bite.
I will
'Cause
too.
I actually haven't tried.
Move this.
Yes, feel free. Actually haven't tried the sandwich before. There's hummus on this too. Ooh, that's really good.
I have a dairy allergy, but this is worth it.
Allergy as in your throat's going to close up in the middle of the interview?
No. Nothing anaphylactic or anything.
Okay,
like
good.
that. Just tummy problems.
Okay. Well, we'll pause for your tummy if we need to.
If we hear it gurgle, we'll know.
Yes, we'll all have the panicked look on our faces. So I think in order to get into things, I think it would help if you were able to do a summary of your various jobs, because I actually don't know the difference between a couple of them. So
Okay.
You're a production manager, line producer, and producer.
Yes.
Would you be able to just sort of give us a breakdown of each of those?
Sure. There's frequently the production manager and line producer positions are held by the same person. Especially in an indie film where you can't just hire everybody.
Multiple people.
Yeah. The term line producer, the line comes from bottom line. So you have a responsibility of the budget, building the budget, frequently managing the financing, which is the other side of the budget. The budget is how you spend the money, and the financing is how you get the money.
Okay.
So in an instance where you have one person in each position. Like one person's the line like my most recent project, I was the line producer, and Robert Fisher was the production manager. Robert, so I did all of the prep, like the early prep and the financing with the LA producers, and putting things together, and helping set up the banking and that sort of stuff. And then Robert came in. He's sort of my go-to guy. Not sort of. He's very much my go-to guy. And he came in and he managed the crew as the production manager. He manages production.
Okay.
He takes care of the crew. He took care of the spending. He negotiated people's, rates and deals and equipment rentals and managed all of that. And we sort of work side by side and take care of all of that together.
Okay.
Producer, in television, the producer is the line producer.
Oh, okay.
And the executive producers are the creatives. In film, frequently, the executive producers are just people who have brought money to the table, or a performer deal, or a network deal, and or a distribution deal. And the producer is very much in charge of everything in film. Okay. Yeah.
Which do you prefer?
I have a love for all of them, like all the positions. I'm not white glove. Like I'm very involved in all aspects. I'm on set a lot. So they kind of all blend together for me. At least for me, they do.
Yeah.
Even when I'm producing, and just the producer, and I have a PM or a line producer working under me and overseeing things. I'm still very involved. Like I like to know what's going on, and not from a control freak sort of position, just from a I like to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I mean, especially because in film, everything is in departments, and for many reasons, including liability reasons, people tend to not cross into other departments, even just to help out for things, right? But it's nice to hear that in the producer world, that you can and you probably should.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that one of the things I like to foster the most is a collaborative environment, and best idea wins. If we're standing on set, the best idea isn't always coming from the director. Frequently, it's coming from the first AD.
Right. Yes, I've seen that.
Or the
times.
cinematographer.
Yeah.
The film that we just finished doing, we had Alex Champagne as the first AD, and we had James Griffith as the cinematographer, two of my most frequent collaborators. And every time we came to a hurdle or a roadblock or a conundrum, it was all hands on deck, and the best idea won. And I think that's the right way to make movies.
Yeah, that's great. I agree with that. And it's interesting because I've actually, from someone who doesn't work in the industry, I've had the feedback from someone saying like, oh, being on set must be really cool. It must be just like this one big collaborative, creative environment. And I was like, well, sometimes, and depending on the department that you're talking about, but sometimes it can be just like technical and problem solving. So some shows, yes, it's very creative, and those are like so fun, and then other ones seem to be more technical problem solving.
Yeah, I mean, it can still be super fun when there's very much a single individual calling all the shots. I love working with auteur directors who have curated the entire experience and endeavor. We're still all working together. It just because they know exactly what they want doesn't mean that they know exactly how to get what they want.
True.
So you're still constantly working together as a team to figure that out. But yeah, that's nice too. Earlier this year, I worked with a director named Emma Higgins, who I mean, I referred to her as a first-time director because it was her first feature, but she's directed like a gajillion music videos, and she was the most prepared director I've ever seen.
That's cool.
Like, she came into everything with a clear vision and a clear plan, and it was awesome to work with. And when we couldn't do something, like, she's like, I want to do this. I'm like, we can't do that. Like, physics or money or what. Like, she just wanted to know why. She'd ask why. We'd have a conversation. She's like, okay, great. Let's figure out a new solution.
Yeah.
She was a delight to work with. And on this most recent project, Spooky, our director, Brendan Daly, was fantastic. He was a whirling dervish of energy, and he almost had too many ideas, and it was great. And we all, supported
reined
him.
it in.
Well, it wasn't just corralling him, but it was, it was a different experience, but equally as cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to other guests about this too. Is like every day, every show and every day is different, and I think a lot of us thrive in that environment.
Yes, to say that I've never had a day go exactly according to the call sheet would be unfair.
Right.
Like, there've been a lot of days that have gone according to plan.
Yeah.
But best laid plans. We come in with this is what we want to do, and this is how we want to do it, and very frequently it doesn't go according to plan. And if you're lucky, you've got a team of really smart people who can think quickly on their feet, and we adapt and react and tackle the challenges.
Mm-hmm. Lots of excellent problem-solving skills on behalf of a lot of people.
Yeah, it's why I frequently choose the people I do to work with, because they're so adaptable.
Right.
They're Swiss Army knives.
Right.
Yeah.
So, production manager, line producer, they're not as frequently talked about when people think of the film world. How did you know that you wanted to step into that?
My first job in film was a director.
Okay.
I love directing. I love being creative. I still do it every now and then. But, I liked eating and paying my bills.
Right.
And so I've now been doing film and television for 30 years. I started when I was 19. And I found myself, let's say, a decade into my career. I had worked as a director. I had worked as a producer. And I had worked on big budget stuff as a production accountant and a first AD.
Okay.
So I had a strong sense of budget, a strong sense of financing, and then also the practical side of being on set and driving the machine. And so the natural progression there was to bring them together. Mm-hmm. The production managers, like key team are frequent, like the accountant, the first AD, the coordinator. I'd never been a coordinator. I never want to be a coordinator. It is such a hard job.
That's another job I don't know that side of things.
A good coordinator is worth their weight in gold. That's where I first met Robert Fisher. He was a coordinator, and he was a great coordinator. Mm-hmm. I'm really lucky I work with people like Maddie Zaku, who's an incredible coordinator. There's great coordinators up here like Tessa and Chelsea, and they're amazing at what they do. Like,
right.
They're like the heartbeat of production. But so anyways, I had the accounting background, I had the first AD background, and it just sort of made sense to start stepping into production managing.
Okay.
Location managers are also, incredible. Like, a good location manager is hard to come by.
Why is that?
Well, there's a lot of people who can do one or the other in terms of location management. There is very much an artistic side to a good location manager.
Really? Okay.
Well, you read the script and it's like, hospital, okay, cool. Like, what are they looking for? Like, you really read the script. You really read, like, what's, You read what's on the page and you read what's not on the page.
Right. Because hospital could be new hospital, old dingy hospital.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so a great location manager doesn't just get you the location, make sure the crew doesn't, like leave feces everywhere or coffee cups and water bottles everywhere.
It happens. It does happen.
It does happen. I mean, not the feces stuff, but the coffee. I mean,
I've heard some things.
Depends on what show. Like they don't just manage the production's relationship with the community, which is vital, because if we burn a location, then we can't come back to it as an industry.
Yeah.
So they don't just do that, but they're also artists. A lot of location managers feel they should be working for the production designer instead of the production manager.
That makes sense.
Yeah, there's an argument to be made. As a production manager, I'd much rather them work for me, but them working hand in hand with a production designer is so important.
Wow, that's really cool.
There's I didn't work with him a lot, but a surgeon is a location manager who worked up north quite a bit, and he just had such a cinematic eye. It was great to work with him. Will Andrews, back when he was still in locations, a real cinematic eye. Like really made finding locations and scouting like an art form. Thankfully for Will, he's transitioned into writing full time now, which is wonderful for him.
Yeah. I never thought of things in terms like that, but that totally makes sense.
Yeah, so much of our business is that balance of art and commerce, art and business.
Yeah. And would you say what you do now is more creative or more technical? I guess PM is more technical.
Yeah, production manager I find is very technical. Line producer frequently is very technical.
Okay.
Producer, I'm more involved in casting. We have a feature coming up in the first quarter of next year that we're really excited about.
Oh yes.
Yes. I'm in the middle of casting right now, and I really do love our director and her input and her creative guidance. She's working with Will on the script right now, and they're doing some really great stuff. But I'm loving doing the casting. I'm working with Nicole Hilliard-Ford and Matthew LaSalle, who I think are two of the very best casting directors in North America.
And where are they based?
And Nicole's based in Toronto, Matt's based in LA.
Okay.
But they also work in Europe, and they're just amazing, the two of them. And we're really creatively and artistically and intelligently casting this project. And with casting, it's not just I want to work with that actor, they're brilliant or they're hot or whatever. You really have to, something that's been a challenge for me is I have to keep thinking about who sells. So in some roles, it can be, I'm casting this person because they're the best fucking actor around. And in other roles, it's like, I need a name because their face needs to be on the box or the poster. And that's how the distributor's going to be able to sell it. And that's how the distributor's going to be able to decide how much money they give me.
Right.
So.
Well, if you need a no-name who is the palest person on the planet, I can make myself available for you.
I think we can find a role for you.
So, given all of these positions, what would you say are skill sets that you either need or have developed?
I mean, personally, I'm strong at budgeting because I've been around a long time and I've done a lot of it. I know how much stuff costs. I'm good at scheduling, but I have not been an AD for what feels like a lifetime now, so I don't mess with that too much. I'm lucky that I get to work with fantastic ADs who are really good at their jobs, and I would say my strongest skill is personnel, is crew, cast and crew relations. I'm very approachable. I take your problems or concerns very seriously. I will always do my best to help solve the problem, or or get as close to solving the problem as possible. We can't fix everything all the time,
Right.
but I would say that that's probably my strongest. I take crew safety so
That's a big issue.
it's a big issue. We basically work on a construction site.
Yeah.
It's, we've got heavy equipment, high in the air frequently, expensive doohickeys everywhere. And
In a studio setting, there's also typically a lot going on. There's
absolutely.
stuff everywhere.
There's fire.
Yeah.
There's, there's fire suppression. So, I think that that's another thing that I bring to the table as a filmmaker is I take safety seriously. And everybody's allowed to speak up about safety. We have to encourage it.
Yep.
The worst thing that happens is, our producers who don't take it seriously. And there's something that we used to talk about a lot, was the myth of cinematic immunity. Filmmakers really I'm making a movie. Those rules don't apply to me. And that's how you get stuff like Sarah Jones.
Yes.
And the Alec Baldwin situation on his film Rust and that sort of thing. There's no reason to ever have a gun on a set anymore. The special effects, the VFX have become so incredible. And the new guns that a lot of these gun wranglers have, where there's even a light that a timed light that provides muzzle flash. And
Oh, okay.
John Wick never had a gun go off on a set. And they made 4 of the biggest and greatest action films of the past decade or
That's
more.
interesting. Wow.
So there's no reason for us to have those things around us anymore, and we have to constantly be looking to improve the safety. That we have to care about each other. Frequently you'll hear about a producer or a department head when somebody brings a safety issue to them, and they're just what are you, a pussy, or something like that? And
Yeah.
it's absurd to me.
Yeah, the mentality has to change.
Yeah, we really have to look out for each other. And when something is happening on a set and it's not safe, and somebody chooses to be brave and say something about it, we have to stand shoulder to shoulder with them. We cannot allow producers or department heads or anybody like that to alienate them and belittle them and their concerns. We have to support each other.
Yeah.
And when we don't, people die on railway tracks. When we don't, people get hit by cars on sets. So we have to hold producers and each other and ourselves to a higher standard when it comes to safety.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not only what the action is that day, it's also, film is notorious for having these extraordinarily long days. People
my
are
God,
in
yeah.
sleep deficit all the time. So as it is, sometimes we're, our brains are half a second behind us. And so the culmination of that, it is really important to make sure everything is being done as safely as possible, and that people are actually listening to the concerns. So what would you say if someone brings up a concern and is not being listened to?
Well, that wouldn't happen on my set.
But for someone who's on a different set.
Oh. If you're a grip or an electric and you're being asked, I'm just using them as an example because, anybody can be asked to be, an AD can be asked to do something unsafe. Locations can be asked to do something unsafe.
Stand-ins.
Yeah. If you're being asked to do something unsafe and you have to say something. You have to take a stand. You have to say something. I understand that we all need to eat. We all need to pay our bills. But we need to go home at the end of the day. And the only way to make sure we all go home at the end of the day is to speak up about safety. So if you're a grip or an electric and you're being asked to do something, you're being asked to put too heavy a load in a lift and send it up. If you're being asked to, overload a circuit or something like that, or you have to say no. You have to say no. And if it costs you your job, your position, you have to go to your union and you have to demand that they help you. Okay. And I know, I can only, like, I'm only speaking about up here right now. I know that 634 is great. Like the
You're talking about IATSE.
Yeah, IATSE 634 is fantastic. There's so many, like, Tiffany's awesome, Ash is awesome. Wayne was a really good business agent. He stepped down. I'm sure the gentleman who's replaced him, Tyler, is great as well. Scott Tom is, like, I always call him the construction mensch. He's just such a fantastic human being, and he's these people care.
Yeah.
So you have to say something. Your union, like, go to your union. Like, if you're being asked by your department head or your producer or your production manager to do something that's unsafe, you have to say no. You have to go to your local and you have to ask for support. And it's only, like, producers aren't the bad guys. Like, it's really easy to demonize a producer. It's really easy to look at them as, as a cliche because they've been depicted as awful people, in media as well. Right. For as long as I can remember. Producers as a whole, aren't the bad guys. Like, if we're not making movies and we're making widgets, somebody needs to own the widget factory. But they have to work with us. Like, they have to take our concerns seriously. They have to take our safety seriously. And if they don't, we have to weed them out.
Yeah.
If they're not prepared to take all of our safety seriously, we don't just go to IATSE 634. We don't just go to IATSE International. Pick up the phone, call the NOHFC. Tell them what's happening.
That's the funding for anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah. The NOHFC is a fantastic funding body in Ontario that provides a lot of money for film and television in Northern Ontario, and these producers who make their livings here, myself included, are super dependent on the NOHFC. And there are really great people at the NOHFC that you can call, like Melissa Gaynor is a fantastic person. And I know that if a producer is running an unsafe set, that you can pick up the phone and you can call her and you can tell her, and she will take it very seriously.
Okay.
Yeah. There, TCUN is another governing body up here. I mean, you could go so far as to, like, let's say it was a CBC show. You can call the CBC.
Really?
Absolutely. They, like, none of these funding bodies or broadcasters or distributors can afford to stand by and allow for stuff, like, for unsafe stuff to happen on, what is at least arm's length their set. So, like, don't hesitate. Like, it's only the only way we can make sure we're all safe and we all get to go home at the end of the day is if people speak up.
Yep.
And we have to hold producers to a high standard.
I know that from some of the people that have had concerns in the past of whatever the scenario would have been, people are worried about being blacklisted.
Of course. And that's the fear.
Yeah.
That is absolutely the fear, and it's happened. And it's really, it's like, it's hard. Like, if I was a local technician and I was reliant on a local employer to pay my mortgage, pay my rent, feed my kids,
Mm-hmm.
it would be really hard to stand up to them.
Yeah.
But going home, getting to go home and see your family at the end of every day, living, not losing a limb,
Yeah.
not having something heavy fall on you, that's more important.
Yep.
And we as a community have to stand together. We have to. We have to take this very seriously.
Is it different now than it was like 30 years ago?
Oh my God, yeah. We used to smoke at our desks. Like, it's, like I remember doing payroll, with a cigarette in my mouth. Everything's different. Me Too changed so much.
Yep.
And created, to an extent, I mean, it can continue to improve. We can always do better, but it really shined a light on what was happening on these sets and in these production offices and that sort of thing. And people speak up more. They really do. It's better than it was. It's far from perfect, but it's so much better than it was. Like, yeah, everybody was a cowboy back then. Like, it was almost cool to like do something, that wasn't the norm.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard stories of people just openly doing drugs on set. That was how it was.
It was
years ago.
Yeah, for sure. And
now we all have to sign something to say that we're not going to do on drugs when we're on set.
Yeah, absolutely. The deal memos have become a lot thicker with all the things that we shouldn't be doing.
Yes.
And all the things that we agree not to do in the workplace, and things that we shouldn't have ever been doing in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
But film was, it was the myth of cinematic community. It was we could get away with all of this because we were making movies.
Yeah.
And now, more than ever, it's a workplace. And there's rules.
That's good.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the North.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but your first Northern show was on The Masked Saint in 2013?
No, the first Northern show I did was either 2004 or 2005.
Oh, okay.
We did That Beautiful Somewhere. Rob Budrow was the director, and Roy Dupuis was our lead actor. And yeah, it was here in North Bay.
Okay.
But then, I worked in Toronto a lot, and I shot in other parts of the world. And I came back in 2012 to do The Privileged in Sudbury.
Okay.
And so, yeah, there was a healthy gap, maybe a 7-year gap between Northern productions. But yeah, my first one was That Beautiful Somewhere, and then The Privileged, and then I think less than a year after The Privileged, we did The Masked Saint in Sault Ste. Marie.
Nice.
Yeah.
And did you immediately see the potential here? Because there wasn't a ton going on around 2012, 2013, or did it take a few times of you coming up here to realize that you really wanted to work up here more?
In 2000, when we did That Beautiful Somewhere, we had like 4 or 5 locals.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then some cast as well. Like Jim, that's where I met Jim Calarco.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I love Jim. Jim's great. But yeah, that was a lifetime ago. But when we started coming back up in 2012, 2013, the NOHFC created the potential for an industry, but it was the people who I got to work with that really made it viable. The
crew.
Yeah, the crew. They were great. They were eager to learn and hardworking, and some of my favorite human beings are friends that I made on Northern shows, like Ashley and Tyler
Ashley
and Wayne and Wayne St. George and Tyler Ems, and Craig, and I mean, like, I could just sit here and go on and on and on. Like, these are wonderfully fantastic people. Like Tyler and Wayne have shot with me all over the place. Tyler's shot with me in Quebec. Tyler, Wayne, Craig, Borg, like we've all shot in Winnipeg together.
That's cool.
Will Anders has shot with me everywhere. Yeah.
So that's really says something about them that you want to bring them with you.
Yeah, like, it's what really makes Northern Ontario a fantastic place to shoot are the people.
I agree.
Which is why we have to protect them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
True. So we don't all lose a limb.
Yeah.
Or something worse.
Sorry, I gotta fix my hat.
It's
It's starting to fall off the back of my head.
So you've said that developing the workforce and labor pool in this region is a big passion of yours.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me why.
The only way that we can continue to grow the industry here is through developing the workforce and growing the labor pool. Mm-hmm. And so I think we need to spend more time and energy and money and resources doing that. Simply sitting back and hoping Canador churns out, 10 to 15 new crew members each year isn't going to cut it.
Right.
Though Canador has a fantastic program and there's great people working in media arts over there, like, educating people and doing their part to develop the further develop the workforce. But I think that a lot more can be done, a lot more needs to be done, and I think we need to do it at the union level. And I think we need the Directors Guild and IATSE 634 and IATSE 667 to come together and start going into high schools. Scion's a great organization for us to work with.
Yeah.
In this regard. We need to start going into high schools, and we need to start hitting up 17 and 18-year-olds who are about to graduate, and they have no idea what the fuck they're going to do with their lives. Mm-hmm. Like, it's around 17 or 18, you realize you're not going to be the starting center for the Montreal Canadiens or the rock star that you always thought you were. And we need to have real conversations with them about looking at film and television as a viable opportunity for them. Instead of sitting in your mom's basement for the next 2 years and smoking pot and, maybe delivering pizzas, come work in film. Mm-hmm. We need to create more opportunities for these people to come in, young people to come in and learn, so that we can grow the workforce. It can't just be the same 15 grips, the same 15 electrics, the same 30 drivers. We have to, if we want to attract more shows, we have to be able to staff those shows. Yeah. So we have to bring up the people behind us. And I think the perfect place for us to target is 18-year-olds leaving high school and encourage them. Come work in film for a couple years. Make good money. Mm-hmm. Pay your parents something each month so you're not just a freeloading piece of shit.
Right.
And come learn a skill. And while you're on a film set, you're going to be like, shit, you know what? Costume looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Maybe I want to be a costume designer, or hair and makeup, or you'll see the grips who are like they're like grubby engineers, and then they're they're building these incredibly important structures that our safety is dependent on.
Yes.
And you're going to, or cinematography, or directing, or acting, or whatever. You'll see through this exposure. They'll see all the different things that are available to them, and it'll spark this desire in them. And maybe they go to film school afterwards with a focus on what it is that they've learned. Maybe they're just like, I really love being an electrician, and I'm going to keep doing it, being a lamp op, and work my way up to gaffer and learn on the job, and and that's great. And they'll by the time they're 30, they'll own a house. Mm-hmm. Because we get paid pretty well in this industry.
When it's consistent.
When it's consistent, absolutely. It's feast or famine. But if we want to make sure there's more feast, we need there to be more shows up here. And the only way to make sure we have more shows up here is if we grow the labor force and have the people to facilitate those shows. Just a couple years ago, I came up here and I was up against I brought a small $4 million feature up here, which isn't a tiny feature, but compared to some of the shows that were shooting at the time, I think The Lake was shooting at the time. They had like everybody in the industry on The Lake, and it was really hard. I had a great crew. Like I was lucky that I have relationships with a lot of really fantastic human beings, and they were excited to come work with me, despite the fact that they could have gone and made way more money on a different
done a longer show.
Yeah. But not everybody has my relationships with the technicians that the relationships that I have with the technicians. So we really need to grow it, and I think we have to start targeting high school kids, because if we wait until college, then sometimes it's already too late.
Yeah, and it's true. There's times when there's like 3 shows going on, and you see that there's a lack of crew on some shows, and they're like, oh yeah, because everyone's on this show, or so that's a big problem.
Yeah, frequently there'll be 3 shows shooting in the region, 1 big show that's got most of the people, and then 2 smaller shows. There's nothing left.
Wow.
And we can change that. It's actually one of the easiest things we could do to change.
Do you think that there would need to be like a completely separate schooling for technicians, or do you think somewhere like Canadore is a good place for? I
think Canadore is fantastic. Yeah. I think the colleges do a really good job, but I think hands-on learning is better than anything when it comes to our business. Especially
the atmosphere is a big thing. Like I feel like you either feel like you fit into it, or it's not the right fit for you. But you won't know that until you actually are on set.
Right. And maybe you work in film for a year and a half, and you're like, fuck this. Yeah. I like sleeping way too much to do this. Cool. You figured something out. Being young is all about figuring something out. And like, we're going to give them the opportunity. It's okay. So, 18 months later, you leave film, you've got some money in your pocket. Maybe you go to Europe. You can at least afford it.
Yeah.
Like you can afford your backpacking experience. Maybe you're like, I'm going to become a doctor because I actually want to do something, like important or,
or maybe you discover you're better suited in the office because there's office jobs.
Absolutely.
On some sets.
Yeah. There's a lot of technicians who, or a lot of people who start in one capacity and then realize that I'd rather that job over there, and so they learn that through
watching
experience.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned this already, but I also wanted to just touch again on the fact that, shooting of any sort of production it's high stakes. So many things could go wrong. But I do feel like it's a big compliment to the crew and this area that you choose to keep coming back here.
Oh, instead of living here part-time, I would live here full-time, except for the fact that my kids are in Toronto.
Right.
And as much as I love film, I love my kids more than anything.
That's fair.
So I have to spend, I spend half my time in Toronto with the kids, and I spend probably the other half of my time up here shooting. I've shot in Europe, and it's really cool. But I can't shoot everything in Europe, and frankly, Northern Ontario is a really great space to shoot independent cinema, and that more than the big TV shows that I've worked on. That's my heart is in indie film, and
is there a specific reason why?
When you can write a check and solve all your problems, that's not really producing.
Right.
It is, but it's kind of boring.
It's not creative.
Yeah, and like I really like working hand in hand with the HODs and coming
Head of
up,
department.
yeah, department heads, heads of department, and everybody on the set to come up with solutions. And when you can't just write a check and make the problems go away, you have to work harder, and that's way more interesting to me.
That's cool. And I feel like that's also the atmosphere of the crew. Now, I haven't worked anywhere else. I've just worked in Northern Ontario. So I don't really have a reference point, but I do know the crew that works here. You're right. It's all, I mean, again, depending on the show and what people feel like they're allowed to sort of overstep to help out with.
It's not overstepping. Best idea wins.
Okay. Yeah. That's true.
Like, look, you also need to learn, when to say something and when not to say something.
Yeah.
Like, you should always say something in regards to safety, and you should always say something when you can help another person. But, yeah, like, when the director and DP are trying to figure out what shot to do, like, the PA doesn't need to come running in from outside to weigh in on it. Like, that's probably not going to go over big.
Yeah.
But yeah,
but it's not uncommon that you see the first AD give a suggestion in that.
No, they're very much an integral part of the brain trust. What I don't like seeing is important people like the first AD cast aside because the director and DP just want to stand in the corner and smoke and and decide everything themselves and that
Right.
sort of thing. You really. Everybody brings something important to the table, and one of the things that I like to talk about in film on a day-to-day basis is the ripple effect, and that's every decision has a ripple. Like, if I decide that we're going to do, or we decide that we're going to do this, you have to be aware of how that affects every other department.
Yep.
Changing this, does that mean that an actor is coming in 3 days later? And does that mean that the costume designer is not going to have access to them in time to do a fitting and adjust their period wardrobe?
Right.
Or
prosthetics, blood, that type of thing.
And
yeah.
the first AD, a good first AD, is always aware of the ripple effect. And there's a fog of war when you're in the process of making a movie or a TV show, and frequently the director is just so like
tunnel vision.
Yeah, they're trapped in that, and and like the only person they're talking to is their cinematographer, because the cinematographer is deciding where the tunnel vision points.
Yeah,
and they're not like, and it's not their job to think about the ripple effect. It's the first AD's job. So when I see a first AD cast aside in those situations, that always chaps my nutsack, because like I really like, you have to include them because they're aware, and
they're there to make the job easier for them.
Totally.
Right? They're the first assistant director to help the director.
If they don't know what's going on, then when it comes time to go to the next scene, none of the shit's there.
Yeah.
So, I like to see that. I like to see them included.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Other than crew aside,
yeah.
What is there certain locations about this area that you really love? You love coming back to? Do you have like a favorite place to shoot?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing quite like Northern Ontario in the fall.
Yeah, we're experiencing that right now.
It's like we literally just wrapped a movie 2 days ago, and it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Like it all takes place in the woods, and everywhere we pointed a camera was just gorgeous.
Wow, it's gonna be amazing.
So yeah, so there's that. Truthfully, I hate the summer. I'm a sweaty dude.
Me too. Yeah.
And I really like
shad flies. Have you experienced the shad flies?
I have experienced the shad flies. I also don't like bugs. Which is is weird because I like being up here so much.
The spiders were just something else this year.
Big spiders.
They've been busy.
They freak me out.
Yeah.
But I like shooting up here in the winter too. Like
okay.
I'm looking forward. The next movie that we're shooting, we're supposed to go to camera in mid-February, and I'm excited about it. Like I like minus 40. It does. It
Do you?
really. Yeah, like as long as you're wearing the right footwear, and you got a good coat. Like,
Yes.
You're fine.
Yeah. Hopefully it won't get to minus 40 this year, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, look, minus 40, minus 30 both hurt your face.
Absolutely.
But I like it. I like shooting in the cold.
That's cool.
What else keeps me up here? My girlfriend, she has a home up here. I loved coming up here to be with her. And my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know that's the crew part of what brings me up here, but
The fact that you've been able to create friendships with them says something.
yeah, like Ben Farella is one of my favorite people in the world, and like I love coming up here and working with him and collaborating with him, and we've got some really cool projects coming up.
Nice.
Yeah.
I look forward to that. Do you think, and there's been talks over the years, do you think that a studio would help this area?
Funny enough, just yesterday I toured the White Owl Studio.
Where is that?
That's just outside of, it's about 45 minutes outside of Sudbury.
Okay.
It's a cool facility. It's very big. I know they're going to put in an AR wall, and that's exciting. That's the latest development in the technical side of film and television. Mandalorian, all that stuff's shot on AR walls. I think we need to be smart about studio space. You can have too much of it very quickly, and it's expensive to maintain. Like a proper soundstage is, like there's heat and hydro and all of that stuff. And if it's sitting empty, then it's kind of pointless. I think that a couple of smaller sound stages would be ideal for the region. It would help us provide the filmmakers that are here and the filmmakers that are coming here with another vital tool in their toolbox to in tackling filmmaking. But we need to be honest with ourselves and realistic. Like, Marvel's not coming to North Bay.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. Is having a big studio here gonna attract huge budget productions?
If we had 100,000 square feet of studio space, we don't have the labor force
Right.
to staff that.
Which goes back to your other point.
And frequently, like when you're the pandemic and the strike and stuff like that have been weird. They've been an anomaly within the industry. Routinely, you'll be doing a show in Toronto. Nobody's available. Everybody in Toronto is working.
Yeah.
Everybody up here is working. So I think that way more than building a soundstage or a series of sound stages to help Northern Ontario grow, we have to grow the labor force. Like that's key to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we need to be honest about the shows that we're attracting up here. Like, we're not attracting $150 million features or TV series because the NOHFC is just not going to give them enough money to get them to it's not to say they won't come up for a couple of days or a week or so to shoot in the beauty that is Northern Ontario, but we're attracting independent films and Canadian television series, and predominantly, I'm not going to say that we haven't had anomalies, but
The funding options for Northern Ontario, is that different than what's available to, say, Toronto area?
Well, Toronto is way more expensive, and it also has the sound stages and thousands of crew members.
Yeah.
And it can support, Del Toro. It can support, big Netflix series and series for Disney and like you could shoot a Marvel movie in Toronto. It's up here. We need to be more realistic about what's coming. if your show if you've got a show under $5 million, you can get $500,000 from the NOHFC, up to. If your show's over $5 million, you can get $1 million from the up to $1 million from the NOHFC. If your show's over $10 million, you can get up to $2 million, all funds Canadian, from the NOHFC for your project. Those are shows of a specific size. Like, you know, in order to attract a Marvel movie, we'd have to give them like $25 million or something of the kind in order to, you know, in order to lure them in and offset, you know, the headaches that would come from, you know, being outside of a major production center where there's all the sound stages and.
I got $5 in my pocket.
Sure.
That's
and,
you know, we're
if
halfway
we all
there
pool
now.
our money together, maybe we can attract a Marvel movie. And you know, it's the sky is ultimately the limit. You know, the Georgia film industry didn't exist at one point, and now it's the biggest in North America.
Yeah.
The Toronto film industry didn't exist at one point, and you know, now it's enormous. Vancouver, Winnipeg. Winnipeg's an incredible production center. They've got, like, it reminds me a lot of Northern Ontario.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, really great people, skilled technicians, beautiful locations.
So obviously with your long-standing career, you've had to persevere, I'm sure, through many things. What would you say to someone who is in the film industry and is either really feeling the grind and is super exhausted right now, or on the other side, not getting enough work and just feels like quitting?
There is no shame in quitting. Like, it's over the years, I remember, like, we would see somebody leave the industry. Oh, you couldn't hack it. Like, and that's not the case. That was stupid. That was the cowboy shit we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
That, you know, like, that is a lousy attitude. You know, we have to prioritize quality of life. And if you're not seeing your kids and you're not getting enough sleep and your health is suffering, you have to make the smart decision. But all that said, this isn't for the faint of heart. You have to persevere. You have to work hard. If you want to create more opportunities for you to earn a living, diversify your skills. You don't just have to be a driver. You could also be a background performer, or you could also be a pretty fantastic office PA, or an assistant production coordinator. Like we were talking about earlier, we want to attract these 18-year-olds to come into the industry and be exposed to everything and see the different things, the different opportunities that they have. Well, there's people who've already been in the industry for 10 years who have had that access. If you're a costume designer or a truck supervisor or a hairstylist or whatever, and you're not getting enough work, learn another skill as well.
That's a good point.
I would love to see more women working in gripping and lighting and and vice versa. Like, there aren't departments that are chick departments. There aren't departments that are dude departments. Like, everybody can do everything.
Yep.
Produce. Like, you know, you work in film and television. You've created your own show.
Somehow I'm still doing it. I don't know.
No, but that's what you have to do. You have to create your own opportunities.
It's true.
I think you've done a great job. I love the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it is you know, I'm kind of tired of sitting around waiting, because I depend on casting to cast me either in a role or do background or do stand-in. When I do stand-in, I have to look like one of the lead characters. So, you know, it just sort of goes in order. If I don't get a role, I do stand-in. If I don't get that, then I do background. But there are some shows that I've had one day on for like a 2-month long show. I've had one day on, and it does get to the point where just like, I'm just tired of waiting for someone else to pick me.
Sure. You could probably be a great AD. and said PA.
Perhaps.
I mean, look, you have what you want to do. We all have what we want to do. We got into the industry with a dream or a goal in mind, but you like eating food.
I do.
You like paying your rent.
Yeah.
So, not every show are you going to have the opportunity to do exactly what you want to do. So, strap on a walkie and wrangle the background.
Yeah. No, my hesitation was like, oh my God, they have so much in their brains all the time.
Oh my God, yeah.
So,
but don't sell yourself short. Like, you can do that. Like,
true. Yeah, I guess you just figure out your own system. And again, like you were saying earlier, you just sort of learn while you're doing the job. I mean, yeah. True.
Yeah, I was talking about it with Rob the other day, and, the most important thing that you can do when breaking into film is have a driver's license.
Yes.
Like, it's immensely helpful. It immediately opens up opportunities for you.
Yeah, I was actually a late bloomer when it came to driving.
Me too. I grew up in Toronto. Like,
yeah.
I had the TTC. I could get anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm a terrible driver.
Well, good to know.
I have my license, but I'm a really bad driver.
All right, you go first when we leave.
Yeah. Oh, I just walked here, but yeah.
Okay.
It's yeah.
But we're shooting in a lot of times weird locations at strange times, and not only would public transportation not be available, it's just you can't depend on carpooling and things like that all the time. So it really does give you the independence to be able to say, yes, I can commit to this entire show, or even if you get called in at the last minute, which we do a lot when we do background. It's like, I find out at 10 o'clock the night before that I'm doing background. Okay, great. Yeah, I got my car. I know how to drive. I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it would be the same thing, especially more for dailies.
Yeah.
That, they sort of get the call at the last second, hey, we need you tomorrow.
But, again, like that would, like, just using you as an example, like daily ADing, like, is a great way for you to increase the amount of time you spend on set. It's a great way to increase your income. Even if you don't want to commit to doing a whole show as a background wrangler or a third AD, doing guarding a door,
right?
Making yourself available as a daily would be in line with that style of thinking about creating more opportunities for yourself.
It's actually interesting that you bring this up, because I find that I'm probably, in some people's eyes, I'm probably the annoying person, but I end up being the person who looks at safety concerns. I remember on one show I was doing background where our holding was like right beside a body of water. There were children there. We were in an outside tent because this was like during the COVID time, so they didn't put the sides on the tents. And it led into night. And I was like, this is an accident waiting to happen. Their chairs are right beside the water. And I was really concerned about it. So I brought it up, and I was just like surprised that no one else thought of it.
There are things that get overlooked a lot.
Work
fair. Lights.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the other thing, is we didn't have any lights in there.
Which is like that's not okay.
Yeah.
That's just not okay. There have to be work lights. You have to be able to see the ground. It has to be safe.
Yes.
There has to be bathrooms, an appropriate number of bathrooms. For I don't know what the exact number is off the top of my head.
There is a ratio.
There is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's like, for every X number of people, like legally, there has to be functional washrooms available to people. So you have to speak up. You have to draw attention to that. If you want to be anonymous, call your union and have them do it. But yeah.
Now, if you're just getting into the industry, you won't be part of a union yet. So who would they?
If you're working on a set as a background performer and you're non-union, you call ACTRA.
Okay.
You call ACTRA. There's so many great people at ACTRA.
Oh yeah.
The people who work in production, like Claire Johnson is like, I would make her my first call, like for everybody. Like, I'm not going to give out her phone number or anything like that. She'd kill me. but like,
I'm sure you can find the information
there's an ACTRA
online.
rep right on every call sheet.
Yeah.
if there's not enough bathrooms, if the bathrooms aren't working, if the bathrooms aren't being maintained by production, if there's no safety lights, if there's not seats, if there's not, if you're exposed to the elements, call ACTRA. They'll do something about it. And if you're working in a guild position, call the guild. And if you're working in an IA position, call IA. Call your local.
Okay.
That's what they're there for.
Okay. And also, if you're in the example that you're doing background, like bring it up with your wrangler first. And then if they do nothing, then escalate
it's a chain. It's like follow the steps, like it's illegal to tell somebody not to call their union.
Okay.
But I always do encourage people to like it doesn't need to be the first call. Like it can be, I support you, do whatever you want, call whoever you want, absolutely call your local. But, don't hesitate. It's why I work so hard to remain approachable. It's why I've got people like Robert Fisher working, side by side with me. Robert, if I'm not approachable enough, Robert is the most approachable person in the world. Bring stuff to us. We will help you. Okay. And I know that not every producer has that in mind. Not every production manager has that in mind. So that, call your local and get them to say something.
Yeah. And also, you seem like a very approachable person. I've worked with you numerous times, and I've always felt that. But I think sometimes we can assume that, the producer's too busy to
daunting.
You know what I mean?
The producer. Maybe I don't fit that mold, but there's a lot of producers who, they're the loudest person on set, and, they suck up all the air. Yeah. And, you don't want to go talk to that person. You don't want to, hey, man, your bathroom is a virus waiting to happen, or
it doesn't work.
Yeah, or it doesn't work, or there's no safety lights, and you don't want to approach that person, so you don't have to. You can contact all the people on the call sheet, all the safety reps, the crew reps, the union reps. That's an important thing for people to learn. And if you're new and you're just starting out, ask the people around you, hey, if I had an issue, who's the person on this call sheet that I would that I would reach out to or contact or ask.
Yeah,
for
that's
support.
Good advice. So you work pretty much 400 million days out of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even when I'm not shooting, I'm
prepping.
Currently, right now, we're delivering a movie. We're in post now on 2 movies.
Wow.
And we're in financing on 3 other projects.
Wow.
So
for next year?
Yeah, we're gonna have to on one of the projects we have to roll cameras before the end of this year, but not.
Oh, really?
Yes. I can't get into it right now, but
well, I tried, everyone.
There's it's and when I'm in Toronto with the kids, it's I get up in the morning, I make them breakfast, I make them lunch, I take them to school. I immediately get back to the house and work. And I work until school's done, and then I go get the kids and I bring them back and I take a break to focus on hanging out with them, making sure homework gets done, feeding them dinner,
being present,
being dad, bathing. My youngest still needs somebody to bathe her.
Yeah.
And
bathing yourself too.
Occasionally.
Ideally. Okay, great.
And then getting them to bed, then back to work until I'm tired at midnight or 1, and then starting it all over again. And that's when I'm not in production. So yeah.
So is the word relax in anywhere near? Are you able to do anything for yourself?
I talk a good game about quality of life and taking care of ourselves and stuff like that. And I'm not the best at it. I'm really not. It's a failing that I have. But, I really, I get time with my kids, and, dad's present, and, if these kids grow up and end up on the stripper pole, it's not going to be because dad wasn't around. It's I'm very involved in their lives, and I'm very accessible to them, and I'm an active, caring, present father. So that is, that's my quality of life.
That's your version of relaxing.
Yeah. If Sometimes it's just the three of us sitting on a sofa together where they're like snuggled in and we're watching The Simpsons. And
Nice.
You
Good
know, and
choice, by the way.
yes, I'm a big Simpsons fan. I can shut
Treehouse
my brain
Horror.
off for a little.
Treehouse
Of Horrors.
There we go.
That's my youngest's favorite. She always wants to watch the Simpsons episodes where people get killed. That's her jam.
You know what? Maybe she's a little horror movie director coming up.
Perhaps. I mean, she's 6, so right now she's just weird. But Tora, my oldest, has totally been bit by the acting bug. She takes musical theater and really loves it and wants to get into the industry.
And you would support that?
We have a rule that I wouldn't encourage her acting until she knew how to write.
Okay.
And so she and I have worked together on writing a web series for her, and it's coming along. I think that acting's glamorous, and everybody wants to they look at acting, they want to be a star and that sort of thing, and that's cool. That's the easiest way to get somebody interested in the film industry is to talk about being a star. For me, it was important that she have if this is really what you want to do, the chances of you being Jennifer Aniston are very slim. So you're going to have all of these other skills. So if you want to do that, and I mean, she's only turning 13, but she knows how to write a script. She shoots a ton of videos. She knows how to use a camera and do framing and,
wow.
So I encourage it in my own way.
I think also knowing how to write a character, how to create a character is all part of the acting skills as well. That you can break down a script easier when you've done the reverse of it. So that's all feeding into that.
Create your own opportunities.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I don't just preach it in the workplace, I preach it at home too.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. So we have talked about some of your projects. Is there anything that you'd like to promote?
Let's see. Sunset Superman is finally coming out.
Shot that here?
Shot it in North Bay. It's been a long slog. We had a lot of financial troubles on that, and some bad actors on our key team that not actual bad performers, but
I was gonna clarify that. Yeah.
shitheads. We
Right.
had some shitheads on our key team that made the journey infinitely more difficult than it needed to be.
Oh, geez.
But we're, it's due for release in November. In
festivals or on?
It's played some festivals. It's now going to properly come out.
Cool.
What else? I worked with some incredible filmmakers. Emma Higgins, Taj Critchlow, Daniel Quinn. We made Sweetness earlier this year, and that's deep in post-production right now. That's gonna come out next year. Really excited about that film. I think Emma's like a force, like a real talent to reckon with. The cast is incredible. I mean, Kate Hallett is she was in Women Talking. She was so young in that. This is she's starring in this movie, and she's a powerhouse. She's amazing. Herman Tomaras, and then they're surrounded by Aya Furukawa and Justin Chatwin and Amanda Brugel and Stephen Ogg, and they're all motherfuckers. They're all so talented. So I'm excited to see that movie come out as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, hopefully that gets something cool like a Sundance or a South by release.
I did one day of background, the last day, and
I got violently ill.
did you? Oh no! I heard something was going on.
I missed the last week and a half of the shoot. I couldn't get out of bed. I was so sick. I got hit. COVID ripped through the crew, and then on the heels of that, I got some kind of chest infection, and it was just
jeez.
I was sweating through my clothes. It was terrible.
Wow.
But I made it.
Yeah.
I'm out on the other side now.
And how do you even, like, if you're that sick, do you even produce while you're like in bed?
I was functional for like in half-hour increments at various points throughout the day.
That's very structured of you.
No, it's like I'd wake up and I would sweat through everything and I would change myself and take more painkillers. And then like I would talk to Rob. Rob was the PM on that. Rob's he's great. Like he's so good at his job. And so I would talk to him and I would talk to the producers and like Taj and Dean Rosen and Olivia Swayze. Like it was just like there were so many great producers on that project. Dan Quinn, and I would check in with them, and we would talk, and then I would go back to sleep.
Right.
So and they supported me. They
That's
were
good.
they were just concerned with my
Well-being.
health. Yeah, my girlfriend came into town and made sure I didn't die, and
It was a bonus.
yeah, it was nice, and we got through it.
That's good. And also nice to hear that your producers could sort of fill in the gaps for you as well.
Sure. I mean, frequently I'm the most experienced producer on the project, and that's an important role to fill. But I really do like, when given the opportunity, I surround myself and the other filmmakers with great, intelligent, experienced people. Like, you can do a show with a inexperienced director who has a vision. If you give them an experienced cinematographer, an experienced first AD, an experienced production designer, like frequently director can be an entry-level position. And you could still make an amazing movie because the director has this beautiful, brilliant vision, and then they've got the people around them that can help them do that.
So with the right support, it can still be done.
Yeah, I've done a lot of shows that were like that, where where the director was green, and I mean, as long as they're willing to take to accept no sometimes, and they're willing to listen and learn and adapt, and as long as they're a cool person, we'll get through it. We'll do the best version of your vision that we can as a team.
I think that's a great note for everyone too. Like, with the right support, even if you're new at something, you can do anything.
For sure. It's the same note that I've been hitting throughout this conversation, but it's like, support each other, be there for each other, collaborate. If somebody's concerned something's unsafe, listen to them, change it. If somebody's concerned that we're not capturing the right vision, say something. Let's talk. Let's figure it out. Let's change it. Let's get it closer to what it's supposed to be.
That's great. I think that's a great place to end it off.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you so much for being here again.
Totally my pleasure. I love your show, and I was happy to be a part of it.
Thank you. Yay. I'm going to go back to my sandwich.
Me too.